Chemistry. This lesson will cover the rules for naming covalent compounds. Okay, so covalent compounds consist of two nonmetals. Covalent compounds use prefixes. Those are words that are attached to the front of a word to indicate the number of atoms. So the prefixes are, for 1, the word is mono, 2 is di, 3 is tri, 4 is tetra, 5 is penta, 6 is hexa, 7 is hepta, 8 is octa, 9 is nona, and 10 is deca. Okay, so the rules for naming covalent bonds are: the least electronegative atom, which is usually the central atom, is listed first. Use the proper prefix in front of the element. Exception: do not place mono in front of the first element. Add the suffix after the word IDE to the end of the last atom. Note that unlike ionic bonds, which consist of two atoms and are charge balanced, covalent bonds can consist of many atoms and can produce ions. So let's go ahead and look at some. So H2O. Okay, we call that water, but that would be dihydrogen monoxide. There's two hydrogens and one oxygen. So take the O off mono when you apply it to oxide. So it's not monooxide, it's monoxide. How about this one? Carbon dioxide. It's not monocarbon dioxide. You do not put mono in front of the first element. How about sulfur trioxide? Right there, sulfur trioxide. Okay, not monosulfur trioxide. How about this one? Dinitrogen tetroxide. Take the A off tetra when applied to oxide, so it's not tetraoxide, it's tetroxide. CCl4 is carbon tetrachloride. And finally, IF is iodine heptafluoride. Now, if you look at your 60 common ion sheet, you'll see in the third group down, there are what we call polyatomic or molecular ions. They're molecules, they're covalently bonded molecules, but they are in ion form. They produce ions. Why that is, we'll talk about it at a later time, but we call those molecular ions or polyatomic ions. So here's the way the names for those. So the ones with a 1- charge are bromate, BrO3-, iodate, IO3-, nitrate, NO3-, chlorate, ClO3-. Now with a 2- charge are sulfate, SO4, 2-, carbonate, CO3, 2-. And with there's one with a 3- charge, and that's phosphate, PO4, 3-. So in memorizing these, notice that all of them have 3 oxygens with the exception of sulfate and phosphate. Okay, and so just remember the mnemonic BINC, BINC, SCP. Okay, for some reason that sticks in my mind, and so bromate, iodate, nitrate, chlorate, and then SC is sulfate carbonate, and P is phosphate. Now, there are variations of those ions, and so what you do is you memorize the 8 ion, the ones that we just had on that page. Those are the 8s. Okay, so let's start with carbonate. So carbonate we saw on the last one was CO3, 2-. Okay, now if you memorize that ion, okay, now if you have one more oxygen, CO4, 2-, you change the name, one more oxygen than 8, you change the name to percarbonate. You add the PER at the beginning. If you have one less oxygen, so CO2, 2-, then that's one less oxygen than 8, you have carbonite, ITE. And if you have 2 fewer oxygens than the 8, the carbon 8, then that's 2 less oxygens. You now have hypocarbonite. Notice that the charges don't change. They're all still 2 minuses. What's changing are the number of oxygens. Let's look at another example. So the charge on the ions does not change, only the number of oxygens. So look at the next example. Okay, we're going to start with sulfate. So what was that? That was SO4 2 minus. Okay, memorize the 8. Now if we go up 1, that's SO5 2 minus. What's that going to be called? That's 1 more oxygen than 8. That's persulfate. Now we're going to go down. SO3 2 minus. That's 1 less oxygen than the 8. And what's that going to be called? That's going to be called sulfite, ITE. And finally, we're going to do 2 fewer oxygens than the 8. Okay, and now what's that going to be called? That's going to be called hyposulfite. Okay, so again, the charge does not change. And that takes care of this lesson on naming covalent compounds.